Good evening. Welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. In recent years, 90% of Hong Kong's deceased are cremated, but a lack of land and opposition from the community have led to a grave shortfall in the provision of columbaria. For a decade now, the government has been promoting the idea of scattering ashes in gardens of remembrance or at sea. It seems to be catching on, albeit slowly. Producer Hiram Liu digs into this alternative burial method. Chengquan Old Chinese Permanent Cemetery. 5 families are here for burial ceremonies. There's no coffin, gravestone, nor corpse, only cremated ashes. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Leung Chak-wang died from cancer 3 years ago. His 32-year-old son, Billy, scattered Chak-wang's ashes in a garden of remembrance according to his last wishes.
My dad liked everything simple. He didn't want a spectacular burial. He knew it's expensive and troublesome to buy a plot in Hong Kong. And he was an easy person. He wanted such an experience after his death.
The ceremony took under an hour. Then memorial plaques were mounted on a wall.
It faces our home and we can see this from home. This is a beautiful place. We are very happy to fulfill his last wishes.
For a decade now, the Hong Kong government has been an ardent proponent of green burial, scattering ashes from cremations in designated gardens of remembrance or at sea.
It is for environmental friendly issues. It is also a demand issue because if the building of the columbarium continues, if we look at our death rate in Hong Kong, it is not going to be sustainable.
Lily Leung was married to Leung Chak-wang for 33 years.
My husband was extremely nice. He was always considerate of others. He encouraged me even when he was ill. He said, "Someday when I pass away, don't waste any money on doing anything for me. Simply scatter my cremated ashes under trees in a garden." I have traditional concepts. I couldn't accept that. But he repeatedly persuaded me and I watched promotional videos. I began to understand more, so I was willing to fulfill his last wishes.
When I learned my father decided to terminate his cancer treatment, I began to look for alternative posthumous arrangements that are eco-friendly. I value environmental friendliness.
Billy found Silent Teachers, a body donation program for training and research at the Chinese University Medical School.
The body will be used within a year or two. We will talk to the family member and arrange every step that are needed for processing the body before the ash eventually go back to the earth. So a clear instruction is essential to ease anxiety.
Billy discussed it with his mum.
I was quite surprised. She asked me what does that mean and asked more about what happens after donation.
Billy explained it to his dad as well.
He promptly said, "I'll do it." I was quite surprised at his readiness because many of my friends may not accept the idea. He also said something that touched us. When I'm gone, if my body can be of use, let them use it.
Chak-wang was among 270 donors in the past 3 years.
This group of body donors are indeed very generous for contributing their body to educating the future doctors. More than half of them have already opted to have their ash scattered in memorial garden.
The government has lately boosted its promotion of green burial with TV ads, organizing lectures and daily tours of the 13 public and private memorial gardens. Official data show in 2007, nearly 40,000 people died and 335, or 0.8%, adopted this alternative interment. 2015 saw over 46,700 deaths and 4,073, or 8.7%, had green burials.
Our traditional concept is that it is best that we are buried on land. And now it becomes not affordable, so people convert to cremation. And up to today, there are more than 100,000 such ashes not placed in a proper columbarium or appropriate sites. A lot of people think that traditionally the living and the dead should not be put in the same place. So they were reluctant to bring the ashes home. Then people will have to find a site, affordable, viable, to place the ashes. So green burial will be the future trend.
We reckon that this will take a long time because it will involve attitudes, culture, and the views of not only the deceased but also family members. But it doesn't mean that we are not doing anything now. When we are building new columbarium sites, we include new Garden of Remembrances. And in our service to people where they can scatter ashes at sea, we have tried to facilitate the process.
Social worker Arnold Leung scattered his mum's ashes in the sea in 2010.
We wait in the North Point piers in the very early morning and get up to the ferry. It's a small ferry, can only accept around 8 to 10 families.
The government offers free ferry services. In 2012, it launched bigger boats to carry a maximum of 25 families and increased sailings to once a week to one of the 3 designated areas: east of Tung Lung Chau, east of Tap Moon, or the West Lama Channel. A funeral director on board assists in memorial ceremonies and religious rituals before families use a wooden pipeline to scatter the ashes.
We do some rituals and just let the bone ash go down into the sea, and then we come back. The total time is around 3 hours. For me and my family, we are quite satisfied about all the process.
Data from 2010 show more than 40% of green burial cases were at sea. In 2015, it dropped to 21.5%, although the actual number of cases rose.
Land scattering is much more accessible because I can just go to those sites and go anytime, anywhere, by taxi or public transport. The ferry service is now available for scattering, and remembering activities are not that frequent.
For more than 9 years, Arnold has been advocating good death.
Good death related to our emotional. So what we have to do is to emotionally prepare that we have to teach everybody that die will happen anytime.
Arnold's mum, Letty Low, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2008.
I cannot accept this. I try to escape from this situation, the reality. Every night when I go back to home, I just rock into my rooms.
Arnold's dad told him of Letty's decision to have a sea burial.
I feel quite surprised. We choose to respect her decision. This is Cambodia. She loves traveling so much. She brought me to many places all around the world. I remember that when I'm 5 years old, she brings me to Wangshan. I need to walk up to the mountain. I think sea burial is because she loves traveling everywhere in the world. She don't want to stay in one place.
And her ashes could also be anywhere.
You don't need to wait for the Chengming and Chongyuan. That is what she told me. If me and my dad miss her, want to memorize her, just go to the sea, just walk down to the beach.
Arnold moved to Ma Wan a few months after Letty's death.
The sea is all around, surrounding my home. Every time when I look at the sea, I miss her. Yes, I memorize her. I know that she's in the sea right now. This is her dream. This is her wishes. I miss you. Please look at me in the heaven, and we are going to be united in the future.
Coming up after the break, what's wrong with our memorial gardens?
As tiny as my courtyard home in Beijing.
Funerals are also going green.
This box, colorful, have a rose. In fact, it's an eco coffin.
Stay with us. Welcome back to the Pearl Report. The government focuses on propaganda to popularize green burial, but potential users think improving facilities for this alternate mode of interment can lure more users. And Hiram Liu reports funerals are also becoming eco-friendly. Brenda Cheung, aged 75, moved with her mother to Hong Kong from Beijing during the Great Leap Forward campaign.
I was very reluctant to come to Hong Kong back then. I thought my future would be better back there.
With no college degree, Brenda got jobs as a clerk, a factory worker, and a driving instructor.
Although I suffered much hardship, I feel satisfied.
Brenda retired in 2001 and became a volunteer at the Caritas Community Centre in Yuen Long, where she learnt about green burial.
I read about it in the newspapers, and the centre had promotional material. It sounded ideal to scatter ashes onto the ground and plant a tree. I thought it was a great concept.
It also reflected her values.
I prefer to be in the soil. I feel people should be dust to dust, earth to earth. It's natural.
Brenda never married, and for her interment arrangements, she says she'll depend on the community centre. She joined one of its tours of memorial gardens in Diamond Hill, Wahab Shek, and Fushan. None met her standards.
Tiny, as small as my courtyard home in Beijing. By the front door we had space to plant flowers. They're smaller than that space. I think it's wrong because you're not the only one. Many people's ashes are scattered there. Layer upon layer of ashes, mixed together. I had my doubts after seeing them. They really aren't ideal. Actually, it's not a big deal where your ashes are placed. Nothing is left when a person dies.
The current problem is the places that you can spread your ashes in green burial are very limited. I would hope that the government can develop more beautiful, especially flower beds and trees, beautiful sites where they can spread the ashes, because people do not want to feel I'm spreading the ashes onto a piece of barren land.
Brenda also visited the Garden of Remembrance in Cape Collinson with a social worker.
我覺得好接近我自己嘅理想啦。我覺得我都有對啲植物有啲幫助啊。係咪？
即係好似同個大自然合二為一咁啊，係咪啊？
咁嘅心態。
回歸自然嘅感覺真係。
咁所以咧，地方咧就真係細㗎啦。但係都覺得係可以接受。
The environment is tranquil and comfortable, with excellent air quality. Everything feels fine. Plaques are larger and it has an open view.
Brenda wants her ashes scattered here.
I've picked these two trees. I think they are tall and straight, like being a righteous person.
People in Hong Kong used to be able to have a tree burial, scattering ashes from cremation in a garden, then have a commemorative tree planted nearby. The service was discontinued in 2008.
Because it really takes up space. And as the scarcity of land is always a problem in Hong Kong, so we felt that even scattering ashes on the ground is another appropriate way of green burial.
張運用，我諗啊，我今日嚟探你啊，今日好天啊，因為你離開我3年幾啦，你喺上邊揾到你爸爸、你媽啊。
Lam War's wife, Cheung Man-yung, died of a heart disease in 2013.
喺上邊好好嘅生活，我今日我心情都好好啊，你唔使咩啊。
Several years ago, at a center for the elderly, Lam attended a lecture on green burial.
I went home and told her, good, we don't have children. We don't want to bother relatives and friends. We don't like having our ashes in a columbarium. Once we're dead, we wouldn't know if anyone pays tribute to us. It's better to return our ashes to nature.
Cheung Man-yung had a green burial.
15年8月11號嗰日上嚟呢就殺你事，一個當日呢，我同埋我太太啲大佬、家姐、我妹咁嚟殺呢度。
This is the Chinese permanent cemetery in Zhangguanou.
對住個海啦。
It faces the sea and some beautiful buildings like Lohas Park. It faces Chai Wan on that side. The environment is good, the feng shui even better.
83-year-old Lam War says he too would like a green burial.
Why don't family members scatter the ashes of the deceased? Firstly, it's cheaper. Secondly, Hong Kong's land is precious. Its population is overcrowded. It's difficult for the living to find accommodation, and it's just as hard to find a place for the deceased.
We have plans to further promote green burial, and we are working on those plans, getting more resources in terms of our further promotion. The most important thing is that people know that they have a choice.
Dr. Fan Ning has been a medical practitioner for 2 decades.
I always have to face many patients who are suffering from terminal illness. They have to face the difficulties of the end of life. Funeral is of course part of this. I start to learn more about funeral and especially related to environment issue.
He noted traditional funerals used up much natural resources.
Every year, more than 400,000 white cloths, white trousers and white shoes are being consumed only for one-time use. And for the flowers, it's more than 2,000 tons. More than 90,000 trees will be burned. Because one coffin is made up of 1 or 2 big trees, that will be equal to around 4 Victoria Park.
In 2013, Dr. Fan formed Forget Thee Not, a social enterprise to plan green funerals for clients. It uses recyclable fabric, flower wreaths, smaller funeral artifacts, and cardboard eco-coffins.
Don't underestimate the strength of this eco-coffin. It's very strong. It can hold a body as heavy as 550 pounds. There's no material related to the methyl alcohol on the surface and in any part of the eco-coffin, so that when it burns, it will not pollute the air. And on the other hand, it can be burned in a lesser time than the traditional wooden one, so that it saves energy and it saves time for everyone.
I've seen eco-friendly coffins in online portals. While he was alive, my dad loved nature. I chose for him to make an effort for nature in his last step. I chose this to take him on his way.
But you won't find many funeral parlors recommending eco-coffins.
Because the government has very strict demands. Now it doesn't let us have a wooden frame around an eco-coffin. It wants a holy paper coffin with adequate low capacity and moisture content. Such coffins can only be made by brand-name factories and they would be expensive. So how can you popularize it in the market?
Wooden coffins typically cost from 8,000 to 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, depending on the wood quality and design. Eco-coffins go for between 7,000 and 20,000 Hong Kong dollars, depending on the design. Last year, the Audit Commissioner's report stated the FEHD's efforts since 2006 in promoting the use of eco-coffins have not resulted in increased popularity of eco-coffins. Among the 41,244 cremations of dead bodies in 2014, there were only 829 cases using eco-coffins. The government should identify and take more effective measures in promoting the use of eco-coffins.
We keep the dialogue with Environment Protection Department and also the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department to let them know that in fact green funeral practice is practical in Hong Kong. The queuing up for cremation take 2 to 3 weeks. With use of the eco-coffin, it can solve this kind of the issue. This is also fit into the government vision about the future smart city.
I think the most important is we have to educate our young generation through the university what is green funeral, because this is the global way. Once they accept it, they know what is it, then they will do it.
If we look at our efforts in changing from earth burial to now people using columbarium cremation, it takes almost like 50 years. So if we want to change now from cremation using columbarium to green burial, we reckon this is a paradigm shift. It is changing the culture.
Well, thank you for watching our show. It will be re-aired on Monday, Tuesday and Saturday, as well as on TVB.com. Until next time, from the Pearl Report team, good night, good luck and good health.